Previously on the STI motor build, we finished assembling the long block and installed a huge Cobb front mount intercooler. We then installed a brand new twin disc clutch and finally put the fully built motor in the car.
Right now we're going to get ready to install the air motive fuel pressure regulator. This kit is nice because IAG actually puts it all together. You got your custom bracket for mounting. They include all the fittings that you need. Also got the lines, pre-made lines. This is the PTFE Flex Fuel line upgrade kit. We're also going to be installing the Flex Fuel kit as well. This is your factory fuel line, regulator, dampener, all that goes away. This is a rare item here. This is the Cobb Flex Fuel Kit. This is a Cobb item that has been discontinued. Thankfully, Ben had it laying around. We're just modifying it to fit Ben's car perfectly. It's not the exact kit that was built for his car with the IAG lines and everything like that. All the fuel lines have been run. The fuel pressure regulator has been installed and in place. The last thing to do is install the fuel pressure gauge. It's an external fuel pressure gauge made by IAG so that you can see fuel pressure at the engine bay.
Next up, we'll be installing the external wastegate up pipe. We'll be using a tile external wastegate. I personally like them just because they come with more spring adjustability. They're more readily available and quite honestly, they're easier to service. I've installed the turbo about 82 times. No exaggeration, no dramatic effect, 82 times.
Now, this one is probably the most special out of everything here. This is a Cobb battery tie down. It is anodized black and it is not full of corrosion like my current battery tie down. This is the reason that we're not going like fully rotated on the turbo, even though a turbo of that size probably should be in a rotator location. We're putting it in roughly the stock location because we want to make this work. This is Cobb's Red Line intake, which is their high-end, high-performance intake box. They have a regular intake box, which is what I ran on the Forester, gray box. And this one is special for the 15 STI. It's wet carbon. Oh my gosh, the weaves are all perfect. Everything's tightly packed and they're consistent, like perfect and uniform, and just absolutely gorgeous.
We're getting ready to remove the windshield washer fluid tank. We have to get this out of the way to space it out for the intercooler pipe to come through, and we're also going to have to remove this reinforcement piece from the factory to make space for the pipe.
We're going to be making the downpipe now. I normally like to make it 2 sections so it's easier to pull the trans if need be. So we'll be using a 3-inch V-band halfway through, and then the back section will have 2 bungs, one for the rear 2 sensor and one for a wideband.
Since this is my daily driver, I want to protect the bumper from all the rock chips that it's going to get. So while the bumper was off the car, I had it wrapped in paint protection film to protect it. With the downpipe now on the car, all that's left is tightening up a few loose ends, adding fluids, and we're ready for the first start.
Well, this is, I think, day 5 or 6 of the build. I am starting to lose a little bit of track now, but the guys here at Intertech have been just really moving, and we're missing a lot as a result because it's really hard to film them doing all this work. But we finally got the engine started. We just broke in the cams, idling it at like 3,000 RPM to break in the cam lobes. I think Sam is doing an oil change now, another break-in oil change. And then we're gonna drive this car just around the street to break in the clutch and the piston rings and all that, and just really put some miles on it before we actually do some hard pulls on the dyno, which I'm actually really looking forward to, just driving around with this thing, even though we won't be making like tons of power yet. It's gonna be nice to actually cruise around with it and see how it feels. All right.
There you go, Ben.
It's all done?
It is all done. Good to drive, but you do have to break it in, so be gentle on it.
Okay, so like under 4,000 RPM, partial throttle, full throttle?
I would do, for the first 100 to 300 miles, I'll do under 4,000 RPM, definitely varying load. It's okay if it sees like up to 5 PSI boost, but definitely don't get into it because it's going to be really easy to.
Yeah.
After that though, definitely kind of stretch its legs a little bit more, get to 5,000, but still definitely varying load, do a lot of engine braking.
300 miles or so, and then do you get into it a little more?
Yeah, I'd say after about 350, 400 miles, yeah, definitely up the RPM a little bit. That way the motor can kind of stretch its legs a little bit more, see a little bit more heat.
Okay, awesome.
But
Thanks, man.
Enjoy, but not too much.
All right, so we have to put 1,000 miles ideally on this car. I don't know if we're gonna get that many miles, but we're gonna try to get as much as we can today. And I've plugged in some addresses, some places to go to, and I've turned highways off. So all back roads from here on out. We're gonna get to see some cool Virginia roads, and hopefully everything is good. Honestly, for a twin disc clutch, it's very good. It's basically 2 stock clutches stacked on top of each other. So it, in theory, should hold twice the stock power, but still feels pretty much like a stock clutch, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. The turbo is just like whistling under the engine, the sound of the engine, which is not rumbling anymore, which I weirdly like. I was really hesitant. I never got rid of the unequal length on the Forester because I like the rumble. I mean, everybody likes the rumble, but also the rumble is the sound of inefficiency. So equal length is the way to go. This sounds so smooth, and it feels so smooth. This motor with the longer rods, and I'm sure the pistons are way more balanced than the stock engine, there's like no vibrations in here at all. The engine doesn't feel like it's straining at all. I mean, obviously it's not because we're just doing break-in miles, but it's so smooth. For a piston engine, let alone a Subaru, it is wildly smooth. What I've noticed from driving on back roads is that it takes a long time to accumulate miles because we're driving at a significantly slower mile an hour. which, you know, you want to do in order to break everything in. The clutch, I can already feel we're 150 miles in now, and I can already tell the clutch feels better. It feels easier to use. I know it's breaking in, which is great. Obviously, I can't really tell if the engine's breaking in, but it's pretty quiet. I mean, it's the same exhaust as before, obviously, but for a car that's gonna make the amount of power that this car is gonna make, it is very quiet. Incredible. I don't think I've ever heard a 500 horsepower car this quiet. They're usually much louder. Heck, most cars making way less power than this are louder. Most notably, 100 horsepower Honda Civics.
Some time has passed and we finally got the motor all broken in. So we're back here at Androtech to see how much power we can make.
So Ben is back here today. He has completed all of his break-in miles a bit ago. We're going to do the 3,000 mile oil change now, along with some other modifications, kind of for creature comforts and the environment. We're going to be recirculating the external wastegate dump back into the downpipe, and we're also going to be installing a Jesse EPA-approved cat into the second half of the downpipe, so we can kind of meet all EPA standards. We'll make a little bit less power, but meeting EPA standards and just being a healthier human being is kind of worth it for me. All right, so now I'll be butchering this Cobb front mount pipe to weld on the tile flange. We're gonna put this guy on right there instead of what was cut off, this guy. Once you kind of increase diameter so that the diaphragm, the whole diaphragm is kind of getting all the airflow it's supposed to get to really just control boost as efficiently as a tile Q should.
Much better. All right, well, we've just done all of the drivability mods. We've put in a catalytic converter. We've got the wastegate recirculating into the downpipe. And we've also re-welded that blow-off valve so it's a little bit cleaner and bigger opening on that. And now it's time to get this thing on the dyno and get it properly tuned. How much power will it make? Between 300 and 600. On its first pull, without a real tune, on wastegate pressure at 22 PSI, it just made what my RX-7 makes at full power on the first pull on wastegate. So it looks like it makes 425 horsepower and 425 wheel torque on pump gas. And that's at 28 PSI, give or take. We could give it a little bit more, but with all the recirc and the cat that's in there and everything, we don't want to push it because the exhaust is probably the restriction here. And things are already quite hot, as we saw. So we're gonna leave it there. I don't need to make a ton of power, especially not on pump. But now we're gonna switch it over to 85, where we're gonna make more power. This is the fun number. This is the number you hang up on your wall. We'll see what we make.
That first pull on E went really well. 478, 29 pounds of boost, so not bad. We got more to work with, so we're gonna keep on going here.
All right, this is it. We just made 492. We're 8 horsepower away. I mean, this dyno reads low. We know it's a 500 horsepower car and more, but I need that number. So close. This is how you blow up your motor. You just give it a little bit extra. No, I mean, we can't really. The turbo's pretty much tapped out, so. Let's see if we can make it. Last pull. Yeah, buddy. 502. Yeah! 500, for real. All right, well, that is gonna wrap it up for this series, and let's hope I don't blow up another motor and have another series, but for now, I think this is the ultimate daily driver Subaru. Yes, daily driver. I'm still daily driving this 502 wheel horsepower Subaru, and I think it's probably the best that you can make a Subaru. I didn't obviously intend on doing a build motor for this, but there are a lot of inherent flaws in the factory Subaru motors, and this is like the best recipe with everything. I mean, all of these parts, all of these manufacturers are like the best way to go with a Subaru. And so we've done it, and now we get to put it to the test and actually find out, is it the best 500 horsepower Subaru?